Oh, okay. So I'm back from my internet crapping out at the worst time. Well, maybe the best time if it was going to happen because fortunately it all started crapping out by the time um I was like well into the credits, and then trying to reset the modem was was a lot more of a hassle than originally intended it to be. So anyways, for the most part, I consider myself done with this damn game. It was a great game, but damn did it take forever to beat it. I I don't know how long, if I just sat there and I did all the story missions, how long that would take, but I definitely do feel like the the bulk of the time that I spent on this game was definitely doing all the side quests and stuff. And man, there was a lot of it. There was a lot of exploration, and yeah, I probably padded a few extra hours because I had to revisit areas two or maybe even three times. If Probably the smartest thing would it probably be to even though it all depends. But if you're trying to do everything in this game, probably the best way to go about it would be just do all the story stuff, like up to a point. I think maybe around sometime after you get the Blades of Chaos, maybe a couple other abilities. So then that way, when you go and you explore these other areas, you'll have all the abilities and skills necessary to get everything. Because the first chance I had to, or every chance I had to explore, I did. I would get whatever from the area, but I couldn't get everything because maybe I'm missing that one ability that you don't get till way later in the game. And it made me have to revisit areas more times than I had to. So that definitely, that alone took up time. But man, just playing this whole game, it was a really really long game to play. Um, especially just content wise, being able to just have this have like this huge land to explore. Doesn't look that big from here, but it's definitely a lot. It kind of, in a weird way, just reminds me of Hyrule. Um, and it's just such a departure from the other God of Wars because there was never, an overworld like this. I When I started playing this game and I saw that there's like a map, I was like, what the fuck do I need a map for in God of War? This is a completely different God of War than what some may have grown up with or have been accustomed to for at least a decade. Because I think when the original God of War came out, it was 2005. Just and to be introduced to a God of War that has like a map, and not only that, I'm in the menu, messing around with skill trees, equipment, armor, stuff like that, upgrading. Just all that stuff that you see from so many other games, but not a God of War, and to have it introduced, and it all brings extra layers into into this franchise. So this is uh, what's interesting is that when I first played the original God of War, my gripes and issues, I think I had a few gripes and issues, despite how great and cool of a game it was. And one is I definitely felt the main game itself was too short. You could beat in a few hours, and that's not to say there isn't any form of replayability. There definitely is in terms of beating the game on different difficulties. I think there was like challenges and stuff like that, but as far as the main game itself, there really wasn't much to it, and I always felt that it was very short. And towards the end of the game is where they kind of tried to um stretch things out a bit, and for me that kind of just ruined the pacing that the first half of the game had. And then I also had I think everyone would agree on this. Like everyone had a issue with towards the original God of War with the part where you go to Hades and it's like all of a sudden it's a platformer and um all this other nonsense. Fortunately, the last few times I played that game, I got through that area relatively quickly each time. But I remember the very first time trying to get through that area, and I felt like I was there forever. But with this new God of War, definitely did not feel the main game was short. This is by far the longest God of War game by a lot. I think even if you just rampage through the story, uh, I felt that with all the time that I spent on this game, I probably could have went back to play the original games. Go back and play the original games and beat it all under the and I could beat them all in as long as it took me to beat this game. So that just gives you a good idea of how much content and how much effort has gone into these games. Because really, uh, leading up to this one, I mean, all the God of War games are relatively on the short end of things. They do have a lot of replayability, but that's just in terms of replaying the game for because of either like a new game plus, um, playing the game on other difficulties, things like that. So it's like I wish I knew how much time that I really spent on this game, but I don't think there's anything on here to tell me because I am really curious. Yeah, I don't see anything. Because in all the other God of Wars, I think the longest God of War might be God of War 3. And I think last time I played that, I think I beat that game in a little less than 10 hours. All the other God of Wars are can be anywhere from, particularly the side games, those can run anywhere from like 4 or 5 hours, and then going into the main games, maybe about 6 to 9 hours. I keep seeing extra viewers come on and leaving, but unfortunately you guys are kind of late. I just finished up playing God of War. Well, at least as far as the main game goes. And on the way to completing the main story, I did a lot of side stuff. The hidden chambers, the fighting all the Valkyries, freeing all the dragons. That's not to say I did everything. There's I'm missing a bunch of the ravens. There's little things here and there. And I'm missing like treasure chests, artifacts. I'm also missing a few realm tears. particularly the ones that are in Niflheim. It's like, and then they leave. It's like, seriously, where were you the whole time I was at the end of this game? Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it for God of War for me. This was a great, excellent game. As far as a God of War games akin to the original ones, um, I guess it's a shit game. But just as far as this being a new launching point for this franchise and the series to continue, it's definitely a great game. I don't think it's as perfect of a game. Excuse me, real quick. I don't think it's quite as perfect of a game as everyone claims it is. It's definitely a vast improvement over some areas in the when compared to the original God of War games, especially as far as like storytelling and characters and actually having character development, having this overworld for you to be able to explore and travel in, and this game put so many elements of that can be found in other great games into this game. There's without it being too much. So there's definitely almost Dark Souls type of vibe. In terms of combat. Not that it was anywhere close to that bad or anything like that, but I definitely felt like that whenever I would fight the Valkyries. Um, there's definitely Legend of Zelda vibe, Skyrim, a um and just there was like many other games that I thought of as I was, playing through this. Fable, Witcher. I mean, so many great elements from all these games individually, and then put into this game and done so well, so tight. So I'm definitely looking forward to the sequels, which of course we'll get in a matter of time. How soon that will be, who knows? Now that they have this engine and all that, maybe the next God of War will be a couple years from now. Maybe 3 years, or maybe they might just take their time, and can't really blame them for doing that. They took their time with this. It was to fantastic results. I think if I'm gonna be that person who is gonna call something out for this game that prevents it from being like that perfect 10, because to me, giving a game that perfect 10 suggests that there's no problems. That there's no problems anywhere in the game where everything is perfect, even down to the menu or the user interface, like whatever. Um, I think the one problem that comes to mind is the lock on. I felt locking onto enemies in this game was very useless in a way, especially when you're fighting certain enemies or bosses in particular, because you'll be locked onto a boss and then sometime during the fight they'll do whatever and you lose your lock on. So so little minor things like that can definitely be improved on and worked on, and I very much assume that it will be. Going from God of War 1 to God of War 2 with the problems that I mentioned earlier that I had with it, that wasn't the case going into God of War 2. So I'm sure they will take everything that has worked for this game and improve upon it, and then whatever little feedback that they received on anything that um might need to be improved on and worked on, I'm sure they'll do it. They did it with God of War 2. Um, a game like God of War 2, the original God of War 2, and I have to say that because we're gonna have another God of War, but with that game, that that's an example of what every good sequel should be, where you take the first game, you took all the things that made it work and just improve upon it, and then whatever issues and criticisms that that arose from that first game is fixed. And that's what the second game did, and all great sequels do that. Just, just they go with what works and then fix the little things that's broken in order to make, just a superior game. So, but other than that, there's nothing else for me to really add to this. This was a excellent game. Had a lot of fun playing it. It's been, I think it's been a long time. Not just a long time, but it is rare to go and play a game and just you keep playing it and playing it and playing it until it's done. And yeah, it probably took me about a couple months total to complete this game in full. I there were other games that I was also playing on the side that kind of distracted me um, from this game. But still, it's just I always had that. Uh, anytime that I was done with this game, I always wanted to just, like, whenever I would be done for the day, I would always just want to keep playing it. This game never really got tiring to me or boring, nothing like that. And I think it's much rarer for me to find a game like that where you can just keep playing and then wanting to play until you do almost everything that you can, until at the very least until you complete the story. So overall, this game was definitely a lot of fun. It was very different from the other God of Wars. Looking forward to what they do with this franchise in the future. But really, there's nothing much. There's seriously nothing else I mean, do I know that um it looks like I've done for the most part all the favors, except here in Niflheim, but I don't really care about all that. To me, I did most of the more important stuff. Yo, Darkman, what is up? You ads. Yeah, ads indeed. Um I don't know how to break this to you, but I just finished the story. And I've just been sitting here just giving my thoughts to the game. I don't know if you how much of this game you've seen. I don't know if you've played it or seen others play it. That is finally over. Goddamn. Was it that Reese's ad that's been showing up every now and then? Oh, okay, you're seeing the entire game. Oh, okay, so you know everything that happened. So yeah. So I just beat the story not too long ago. Did the boss fight with Balder, went to Jotunheim, read the ashes, found out, and EG and E. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's kind of random, what ads get, but eventually everyone gets the same stupid ones. Um, so yeah, and then I went to after all that was over, I went back to the home to go because it gave me an option to go to bed or whatever, and then had the I guess a dream or a glimpse like into the future where they run into Thor. So and then also found out that the boy is Loki. Um, um, so a lot of crazy stuff happened towards the end, as you know. But now I saw it for myself, and it was pretty crazy. So, but how about you? How did you feel the game was overall? Yeah, I could definitely agree with you there. Because prior to you coming on here, I was just sitting around, just giving random thoughts about this game and the God of War franchise in general. Yeah, there was like very, very, very minor glitches. Nothing that made me have to reset the game or anything like that. Just um, just common minor issues, if anything. But yeah. So prior to you coming here, I was just giving little random thoughts about this game and uh, the God of War franchise in general. Um, yeah, I thought this game was really, really great. As completely different than all the previous God of Wars, but that's okay. What they did with this, especially going forward, it's cool. Like I'm looking forward to it. It's after playing a decade of all the other God of Wars, and yeah, they were great games in themselves. But now to go into this game, the first time playing it for me, it was crazy to go and seeing that there's a world map. There's like armor and shit that I can equip and upgrade and craft. I probably spent more time in menus or in my inventory or whatever in this game than probably Chains of Olympus for as long as that game takes to beat, which is like 4 or 5 hours. And the amount of time that I also took just playing this game, doing the story along the way, doing as much side quests and all that as I can do. And I think in the amount of time that it took me to do all of that with this one game, I could have just replayed all the six God of War games and been in there that same time. But yeah, this was just a really great game. I'm looking forward to what they do with this franchise going forward. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. As you can see here, I did a lot of stuff, not everything. I don't think there's any area except one, which is Muspelheim, that I got 100% on. But I did stuff like I fought all the Valkyries, freed all the dragons. So after doing all that and doing all the other side quests and completing the main game, I feel pretty satisfied with this. And it's gonna and now it's time for me to move forward after spending all these the last few months actually playing all the other God of War games leading up to me playing this one. And yeah, so now it's time to move on from here. So I'm just gonna actually just gonna go and close out the game. Actually let me save it. Gonna make a new game save. And now that's that. I had to turn off the background music for this theme because it's gonna give me like a muted audio shit. All right. So, if you're curious about what I'm going to be doing next, not necessarily right away. I might take a small break and come back for a bit. But so as you know, in about a couple months, maybe a little less than a couple months, you got the new Spider-Man game that's coming out. I'm really looking forward to that game, and I, at the moment, plan on playing it when it comes out. Leading up to that, I pretty much played a lot of the Spider-Man games that's been coming out over the last couple decades. I played damn near, at least if anything, I played most of the Spider-Man games have come out on consoles. At the very least, since PlayStation. But the only Spider-Man game that I haven't played is the Amazing Spider-Man 2 game. I played the previous one and played the previous games also. So I think I want to just go play that game, even though I heard it sucks. But I want to go play it, get it out of the way, and then that way, whenever Spider-Man comes out, I'll go and play that. So if you're interested in watching me playing a bad game, that Spider-Man game, then hopefully you join. And if you're interested in comic books or superheroes in general, then it should be pretty cool to play through that game while talking shit about that. But I think I gotta download the game though. Not positive, but let me check. No, looks like I already got it downloaded. Ah, Darkman, why you leave me, bruh? It's okay. Like I said, I'm about to go take a break anyways. Yeah, go take a break and I'll be maybe I'll be back in a bit. We'll see what happens. But for now, see you guys later.